Hey everybody and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about some fantasy romance. You guys know that Smut Den is coming up at the end of the month. It runs from the 7 p.m. on May 25th in Eastern Time until 7 p.m. on May 28th Eastern Time. That's Memorial Day weekend for you guys that live in the US, and I'm really excited. I feel like everybody has been in a fantasy romance mood recently. With the release of Serpent in the Wings of Night and Ashes in the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent, as well as Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, I have been binging the fantasy romance. And I love fantasy romance, but it's got to have a plot for me. It's got to have some substance to it. I love a slow burn where we really take time to get to know our characters, but I do like a little bit of spice in there as well. So we're going to be going through my fantasy romance TBR, and I'm hoping to get to several of these in Smut Den. So I actually will be going over what prompt it would cover, but this is still my fantasy romance TBR, even if you aren't participating in Smut Den or you're watching this after the weekend happens. So let's, I guess, just go down the list, no particular order. I do have a couple of dark romances that I will throw in at the end of this that I am hoping to get to read in the near-ish future. I'm not going to be doing the light wheel. I'm not really a light wheel girly. If I'm going to read a romance, I prefer it to be on the darker scale. But let's go through the fantasy romance that I'm hoping to read soon. The first are two sequels that I'm needing to get to. One is A Light in the Flame by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the second book in the does it say on here? Yeah, Flesh and Fire series, which is also the prequels to the Of Blood and Ash, and they all kind of sprinkle in together, so definitely make sure you're looking up the reading order. This is like number, I don't even know, like 6, 7, not sure, but From Blood and Ash is following Poppy, and she is the maiden. She's not allowed to be looked at, she's not allowed to be touched, she's not allowed to really do much of anything until she's given over to these gods, but she gets a very unlikely person in her bodyguard, and that's kind of all I'll say about that. And then I'm kind of wanting to get to the second book in the Savage Land series. This is one that I did not give a really high rating. I think I gave it like a high 2-star when I read it, but I'm also curious about continuing in this series. It's following Brexley, who grew up in like privilege, but she's always wanted to break the rules, and you're in a world where there are like human districts and fae districts, and when she gets caught doing something that she's not supposed to do, she is thrown into the fae prison, and she's got to try to figure out how to live with the worst of the fae and human criminals. But here she meets Warwick, who is a brutal, cruel, arrogant, and lethal. If the games don't take her out first, this is a fight to the death where only one survives in order to get out of this prison. It was okay. It just wasn't anything groundbreaking for me, but I am very curious about the sequel to this. So these are two that I would love to potentially read in the near-ish future, but they're not necessarily on my Smut Den TBR. So starting with the Smut Den TBR, the first is Blood Mercy. This is by Bella Roth. I have seen this going around everywhere. Becca's Patreon is reading the series, and I'm really behind on those because they are very long. This one is like 660 pages, so whether or not I'm able to actually read it over the weekend when I want to read several books remains to be seen. But this one I would be doing for the prompt flowers on the cover, and it says, one human, one immortal, will their alliance save the kingdom, or will their forbidden love be a death sentence? I think it is about maybe vampires. It says Hespertine, but she says she has no fear of magic or his fangs, so I'm wondering if it's kind of like a vampire romance. Anyway, I'm interested. It says it's slow burn, it's steamy, and it has world building, so definitely sounds like my kind of thing. And I do have a copy of this coming. I did purchase it, but I did not want to wait until the mail got here today in order to show it to you guys, so we're just gonna pop up a little picture of it in the corner up here. Okay, next we have A Court of Ravens in Ruin. This is a Brides of Mist and Fae novel by Eliza Rain. This is one that's kind of lower on the TBR. It gets great ratings, but it has a trope that I don't love, which is the marriage trope. It says, a defiant human world, a dark fae prince, two enemies bound to a marriage that could destroy their world. So it's definitely got that trope in it. I mean, it's literally in the series title. So I'm not 100% sure, but it is inspired by Norse mythology and Vikings, and it's a sexy fae Vikings, which has me very, very intrigued. It's got a touch of Hades and Persephone and Beauty and the Beast vibes, and it says it's a slow burn enemies to lovers romance with magic, myth, and delicious tension. So all of those those are buzzwords for me, except for the marriage trope, and depending on how it's done, it could be fine. So I probably will give this a try. This is probably gonna have to go for, I don't know if it could really count for creature on the cover. It does have a raven on the front, which is definitely a creature, but it also has a rose, so we could do it for flowers on the cover as well. Then we have House of Beating Wings, which is another one that I got from Becca in the Books, and this one is by Olivia Waddlestein. I have heard a few things about this one as well, but not nearly as much. This one, I think I'm going to be able to do like flowers on the cover for all of these, which is kind of annoying because that's the one I thought would be the hardest one to do. But it says, free the crows, Fallon, and they will make you queen. It's about an oracle that predicts our main character's future, and she never imagined herself rising above the curve of her rounded ears. So I'm assuming there's like fae or elves in this. She is a magical halfling. And then we've got Dante, who is the prince, and he's owned her heart since the beginning. But if only the oracle had warned her that a winged demon was going to be what she was releasing into the world, and she was going to become the demon's obsession. It sounds interesting. I'm very, very curious about it. It's apparently an epic fantasy romance full of deceit, betrayal, and false lovers that could swallow a person whole. I don't know. Sounds intriguing. This one, we did black or white cover, not dark cover, so it makes it slightly more complicated. Actually, I can use this for red font because the tagline at the very, very top is in red, so it doesn't say that it has to be the title, it's just anything on the cover. So that one would work for the red font prompts. Then we have A Curse of Shadows and Thorns. This is by LJ Andrews. Also gets really, really good ratings. It says it's a rebellious princess, a cursed rogue, and a forbidden love that will bring a kingdom to its knees. It's about the niece of a king who cares about only two things: sneaking into gambling dens and avoiding an advantageous marriage at all costs. Again, this has the marriage trope. I was noticing a lot of the fantasy romance that I was looking at had the marriage trope, which I don't love, and I don't know why. So, we'll see. You guys let me know if you've read these, if the marriage trope is something that is like in your face gonna bug me, or if it's done in a really tasteful way. So let me know. Her uncle holds the life of her ill father over her head, and she is put into the fate of Legion Grey, who is a handsome and mysterious dowry negotiator. I don't know what that means. After a bloody coup upends the kingdom, she flees with Legion, but nothing is as it seemed. It says this has luscious world building, banter-filled romance, epic battles, so it's a Viking part fairy tale. Interesting. I'm curious. Always those little taglines down at the end get me more than the actual synopsis. I don't know why. This one also could count for flowers on the cover. It is black, so I think that we could do that for a black cover as well. None of these really had like a previous cover, so they are discrete covers, but in my mind that prompt was to, like, you had the shirtless man cover and then you also have the discrete cover, so I have a different book in mind for that one. So we'll see. That one sounds interesting as well. Then we have another one that I actually did purchase, and that is The Song of the Marked by S. Jim Gaither. This one is about old gods that are growing restless, an ancient evil that is rising, and a main character that needs to stop it. Cassia? She cares about completing whatever the latest job is and earning enough coins to buy expensive medicine to keep her mentor alive. Her partner may be infuriating, but at least their mission seems simple enough. Investigate the origins of the strange plague that has been ravaging their empire, help find a cure, and call it a day. And it says that their empire is not going to survive its full unleashing. This one also says luscious world building. I feel like they need to find another way to say that. Banter-filled enemies to lovers and epic battles. I guess that's something that people are just kind of pulling because I've seen that tagline a lot, but if it's true, I'm gonna really enjoy it. This one also fits flowers on the cover. I think literally every single one has had flowers on the cover. We need to find a new trend. And I honestly think that's gonna be about it for that one, unless I hit a wild prompt. I'm not sure that it's really going to cover much else. Alright, then we're moving on to The Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. I'm so excited that I get to include a Carissa Broadbent on this TBR because I have been absolutely loving reading her stuff recently. I am completely obsessed. I have blown through the entire Crowns of Nyxia with the novella. I am going to be reading the standalone novel very, very soon. Not for Smut Den, I'll be reading that for something else, but I'm so excited to finally get to Daughter of No Worlds. This one is not an enemies to lovers, it's like a mentor to lovers, which scares me a little bit that the banter won't be quite as good as it was in Serpent and the Wings of Night. But this is about a former slave who is fighting for justice and a reclusive warrior who no longer believes that it exists, and it's a dark magic that will entangle their fates. I think it's about where our main character is ripped from her world and thrown into a new world where there's an organization of magic wielders, and she gets put into the order and given this mentor that is very grumpy and doesn't really want to teach her anything, but she will stop at nothing to save those that she feels like she abandoned, even if it means gambling in the order's deadliest games, even if it means sacrificing her heart. I'm excited. I don't know if I'll love this one quite as much, but I trust Carissa's writing and I cannot wait to read this. I think I could probably include this for red font. It's kind of like a red mixed in font. It does have her hand on the cover, so I feel like we could probably count that. And I can't really tell if it has flowers on the cover. I'll have to look when the actual big cover gets here. Next up is one that I have owned for quite a while, and that is A Fate of Wrath and Flame by K.A. Tucker. I was actually putting this one off because I had heard that it was really, really good, but it also had a pretty big cliffhanger. I like K.A. Tucker's writing. I've read some of her contemporary romance back when that was more my speed, and I did quite enjoy it, so I'm hoping that I will like her fantasy romance as well. It says she would know the world of vengeful gods and monsters, and the lengths one would go for love, and nothing would ever be the same for her again. This is about a jewel thief that works for the New York City crime boss, but when a woman secures her services at sword point, she is wrenched from this world and transported into a new world of opposing thrones, warring elven societies, and elemental magic. That sounds very interesting. With the enemies closing in and she fights for her growing feelings for the king, it's time for her to find out who she truly is. I've been, like I said, really excited to read this one for a while. None of these are short, so we'll see how many of them I'm actually able to get to, but I am very, very excited for it. It's one of 3, and I want to say at least 2 of the 3 are out now, so if I really enjoy it, I can just go ahead and binge the series. This one is going to count for black cover as well as flowers on the cover. Once again, who's shocked? I really need like a shirtless man. I don't have a shirtless man. Okay, then potentially I could get to the 3rd in the Season of the Wolf of the Fae Guardian series by Lana Pekekrik. This one is The Dreams of Broken Kings, and it does have a shirtless man on the cover, so if I roll that prompt, this is what I will be using for it. This is about a group of Fae Guardians who are all sworn to protect this basically dystopian world where we have ended everything, technology no longer exists, and because technology is no longer blocking magic, magic is kind of taking over the world. And we have all of these women who were basically frozen until it was their time to help bring forth a prophecy or something like that. Anyway, each book is following a different couple, but the overarching plot is still the same. I've enjoyed the 1st and 2nd books. I wouldn't say that they're groundbreaking, but they're fun and I have a good time with them. But I do have fun with them, and so I'm excited to continue on with the series. If I roll a shirtless man, if I spin a shirtless man, this is definitely what I will be getting to. Then we have one that people have been recommending, and I can't remember if I've tried this one or not, but it's What Lies Beyond the Veil, and it's by Harper Woods. This one is on the shorter side, and again, I've heard some really, really good things about it. It says, once we worshipped them as gods, then we died on their swords. Now they'll come to claim what's theirs, my heart. It's about the veil that has protected this world for 400 years from the Fae, and in their absence, their lives have shifted from sin to survival and virtue under the guidance of the new gods. But all that changes when the veil is shattered and the Fae come upon their world again. Before they captured her, Selim saves her from the wild hunt. Fae marked and on the run, he's able to fight back in ways that she can only dream of. I'm hoping this is a little bit of she is protected but doesn't need to be, because I'm not really a big fan of the damsel in distress, big strong man's gonna come save the day kind of heroine. I prefer for them to have a little bit of bite and a little bit of spunk, but we will see. Once again, this one's going to count for a black cover. It could potentially have red font. It's kind of like an orange into red font, so I might could get away with that one. I'm noticing a trend in all of these covers that I have the same prompt over and over again. And I think the last fantasy romance is City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards. This one's one that came out a while ago. It came out last year in January, and I've heard some pretty decent things about it. I've seen it around. It's kind of been on my radar. It's about the city of Angelthine, and we hope you survive. It is I don't think it's an urban fantasy, but it's more like monsters than fae. And it says Lauren has only ever been ordinary. She's a human fighting to survive in a city that caters to the needs of vampires, werewolves, witches, and other supernatural creatures. Until she barely escapes an abduction at the hands of dark slayers, which are supernatural bounty hunters. One of her friends is taken in her place and they are demanding a ransom. Lauren's life in exchange for her friend's safe return, and she's going to do whatever she can to get her back. Darian specializes in tracking down demons and criminals that are better off dead than alive, so when he takes the job to track down Lauren and find out that she is human and couldn't hurt a fly even if her life depended on it, he decides to protect her instead of turning her in for a reward. Don't know how I feel about that. I don't, yeah, we'll see. That, again, trope doesn't always work for me. I need for there to be a little bit more to it than that, and hopefully there will be because this is just the synopsis. But it sounds relatively interesting. I like the idea of a city of monsters and that there are just measly humans that have got to try and make all of this work and survive. But I'm curious if the relationship side of things is going to work for me. We'll see. This one counts for white cover, which I had not had yet, as well as red on the cover. There is a wolf, so I think we can count it for creature on the cover. And I think that's about it. So that one knocks off several prompts. And then last but not least, I'm just going to really quickly run through some dark romance that I'm considering if they come up on the wheel, because I do want to read a couple of dark romances, but it's not really what I'm like in the mood for, so we'll see. I do potentially want to get to Broken Vow though, which is the Brutal Birthright #5 by Sophie Lark. I read a decent bit of this series last year during Smut Den and had a really good time with it. This one's following Rylan, and he is wanting a girl that is gorgeous, intelligent, iron-willed, and she hates his guts. She is being hunted by an assassin who never misses his mark, and if this hitman wants her, he'll have to go through me first. I think that there is a like riding crop type situation. There's cowboy boots on here, so we'll see if this ends up working for me. I know that this is not everyone's favorite in the series, but I have heard some good things about it. This one is definitely going to count as a discreet cover. I don't own it, but the Kindle Unlimited edition is now the discreet cover. And then last but not least is Haunting Adeline by H.G. Carlton. I did read the Sibby novel, Satan's Affair, which is the prequel novella to this series, and loved it last year. Like, I was reading it and thinking this is wild and crazy and I hate it. It's going to be 2 stars. And then I got to the end and was like, wow, 4 stars. Loved it. And so I'm excited to kind of be back in this world before the full-length Sippy novels release here in the future. Cassidy ended up enjoying this one quite a lot, and so I'm hoping that I will too. I know it's about a stalker, so just kind of be aware if those tropes are triggering for you. It says that the stalker didn't mean to fall in love, but now that they have, they can't stay away. He's mesmerized by her smile in her eyes and the way she moves. He keeps watching and waiting until he can make her his, and when she does, he's never gonna let her go, not even when she begs him to. Apparently it does end on a cliffhanger, so I might end up just moving straight into Hunting Adeline, who knows, but I've heard some really good things about this one. It's been on my radar for forever, so it may just be time that I read it. This one is going to count for a black cover. I can't tell, but I think there are flowers on the cover, and I want to say that's going to be about it for that one. Okay guys, so I think that is going to be my entire fantasy romance slash Smut Den TBR. I'm excited for the weekend. I'm a little bit nervous, not gonna lie. Smut is not something that I typically read a ton of, but it was really fun last year to hang out and have a good time with everybody, so I'm excited to do that again this year. Let me know down in the comments below if you're going to be participating in Smut Den, and if you are you going to be doing mostly the light wheel, mostly the dark wheel? You're going to be mixing it up? Have you read any of these books that I've talked about, and which ones would you recommend that I prioritize? If you just wanted to hang out and you just want to let me know that you were here, leave me a rose emoji down in the comments below. Thank you guys so very much for watching. As always, links to my Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and Goodreads are all in the description box down below. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you wanna, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!